Hi, and welcome to Coaching Unveiled. I'm James Fenimore from Fenterprises and joined as always by Jason Donahue from Level Up Fusion Coaching. This is where we explain exactly what coaching is. Today, we're going to be talking about coaching versus therapy and what makes them different. Jason, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Looking forward to the conversation, James.
Yeah, me too. This comes up quite a bit actually. People think they know, but they really don't.
Absolutely
Um,
agree. I think there's a lot of myths about what coaching versus therapy is, and glad we're going to get a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was guilty of it, honestly. There were times I was like, yeah, what's really the difference, right? You're talking to people and you're letting them know your problems are. And I was like, yeah, no, I was wrong.
Well, I'm looking forward to being able to share our insights with other people. That way they can learn from it too.
Yeah. So, well, talking about doing this, we were kind of planning the show and seeing how we're going to do it. And then we had this idea of we're working against this. People have the opportunity to go and, use Google or today, ChatGPT. So why not just plug into ChatGPT? What's the difference between coaching and therapy? Give me the five main tentpole tenets. And then so we did that and said, let's talk about what ChatGPT says they are and see where we agree, where we may differ a little bit, and what we could expand on. So I think that's a great way to start this. So let me see what ChatGPT had to say. Coaching versus therapy. What makes them different? Let's get started. Focus and orientation. Therapy typically focuses on addressing past traumas, resolving emotional issues, and improving mental health. It often explores deep rooted psychological patterns and aims for healing and resolution. What do you think? That sounds like therapy, right?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Coming from the mental health field, that very much is accurate.
All right. So, ChatGPT, one for one. We're off to a good start. Coaching, on the other hand, is future oriented and goal driven. It focuses on personal and professional development, setting and achieving goals, enhancing performance, and maximizing potential. Jason, how's that feel?
Yeah, I think that that's very accurate. Again, the therapy, both have their place, and we both acknowledge that and very much support that. I just think it's important to be able to make this distinction for folks, because I think maybe sometimes people seek coaching in a therapy format, and that doesn't really meet their needs. So I think this is a great way, and ChatGPT did a good job on delineating the focus and orientation of these two.
Yeah, and I think that was a couple great points you made there. First and foremost, in no way do we have a problem with therapy. Therapy is very important and vital for millions of people. Um, it's just finding what is going to work for what you need to get done and accomplish, right? Um, it's a different hat for every head. So we want
Mhm.
to make sure that you're understanding what coaching can accomplish versus what therapy accomplishes. So this is really boiling it down beautifully. Coaching is very future focused. It is just, what do you want to get done? We're going to help you get there. End of story. Like that is what we're here to do. We are going to figure out a way to hit that goal, hit that marker. Almost think of like a personal trainer, right? A personal trainer is not going to be talking to you about a dodgeball game from when you were 8 years old and why you lost, but they're going to talk to you about you want to end up, working that bench press 50 pounds heavier by the summer. We're going to figure out a way to get you there. And we're going to put you on a diet regimen and help you, put you on a training program about the increments of weight that you're going to have to lift each week to get there. And we'll eventually put a program together to achieve that goal. Therapy, that's not where that's going to work. So I think that's a real good understanding of backwards looking, forward looking. Not that therapy is not going to help you for the rest of your life. That's their goal too. But again, it's fixing those past traumas and really getting to the root cause of things where coaching is purely for those people that are just looking forward.
Yeah, I like that comparison, because I think therapy, there's tools of archaeology in therapy. It's the
Mm.
ability to go into the past, and to be able to gain the insights and understanding about what the past is, both in healthy and challenging situations, for a person to be able now to come to the present and be able to apply those insights without being stuck in the past, to be able to move forward. So, where I think therapy is like the archaeologist, I do very much agree that coaching is like the reps and sets trainer. on
Yeah.
preparing somebody and helping them move forward in the future. So I like that analogy. That's good.
Yeah, and there are some instances where you're not going to be able to move forward towards some of those goals without the therapy. So they really are really hand in hand. I think any great coach and great therapist will acknowledge each other, not work at odds with each other, and know when, hey, therapy is what needs to be done here, or hey, coaching is what needs to be done here. That's why there are a lot of therapists that also train as coaches, so they know what hat to wear and when to wear it, because it's so important, and they understand the value of each technique. All right, I think we covered that one pretty well, actually. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
ChatGPT, off to a good start, pal.
Yep.
All right, time frame. Let's see here. Therapy sessions can be long term and ongoing, depending on the nature and severity of the issues being addressed. The frequency and duration of therapy sessions can vary widely. Coaching engagements are typically shorter and more structured. They often involve a specific number of sessions focused on achieving predefined goals within a set time frame. Jason, how does that sound?
Yeah, it actually sounds really good. Again, therapy, there are different therapy modalities that it can be more designed for shorter, such as solution focused therapy, but it really depends on the issue that's being examined at hand with it. But in general, yeah, I think GBT did a nice job by describing it is long term and ongoing. Where coaching engagements, it's targeted. There's a specific goal that's or an outcome that's desired that we're working with our clients with, and they are typically shorter and more structured. Now, that achievement of that goal may lead to another goal, which would continue it on. But no, I think ChatGPT again did a nice job right here.
Yeah, it reminds me of what I just said too, right? By the summer, I want to hit an extra plate. So
Yeah,
that is essentially
yeah,
coaching. By a certain date or by a certain, quarter, whatever it is, especially on the business side of things, it's very easy to identify those markers. In the third quarter, I want to increase my sales X, or by the end of the year, I want to hire a new director of operations, whatever it might be. On the business side. On the personal side, a little bit more flexible. It's going to be a lot harder to say I want to find a spouse or I want to, but there's, as a coach, it is our duty and part of our contracting obligations to set those goals, because it's very important to us to set those markers so our clients can achieve those action items within their work, so they can hold themselves accountable and also know that they're being coached properly, also know that we know they're coachable. Part of something that's very important in the coaching community to all of us is making sure we're not just stringing people along. We need to make sure that we have clients that we are helping. We're not just sitting there and talking to for an hour or 45 minutes or 2 hours, whatever the session length is, that we're doing real work. You know, we've all talked about this as coaches. Every so often you're going to get a client that comes in and they've just had a week or they've had a day and they just want to vent. And that's fine for us. Like, give them 10 minutes, let them get it off their chest. But it is our purpose. And listen, is this what you want to do for the hour? Because I'm telling you, that's fine. But this isn't going to get us any closer to the goals that we've set. And we do call that out. Now, different coaches, different flavors, different clients, different strokes. We don't necessarily are that harsh. Sometimes we're harsher depending on our client. We do adapt based on what our clients need. Sometimes we're much softer, but that is the general message that gets said, because we know that the goal is the mission. And that is always going to be our North Star. Not to say our clients can't change the goal, they can. But we then identify that and say, are we changing the goal? Because this was the original goal. Do you want to now change that goal? If you do, that's fine. But we now need to have a conversation about that and recognize that we're changing our goal, because the goal will always be our North Star. Therapy, it might be a little different. Hey, we just uncovered something totally new here. We might want to dig into that. How do you feel about that? Let's go down that road. It's a little bit more free flowing sometimes, and that's totally fine, because there are some traumas that you may not even know exist. That's why time frame is so different, right? Like you could have all the time in the world to do that, but if you are goal oriented, time is of the essence. You only have 15 sessions, you only have 10 sessions, you only have 6 months. Let's go. Your time is money here, guys. We got to make it work.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think as well as when we were talking about in the previous slide, what the focus is that this is very much like helping the client drive the car forward. There's times you check your rearview mirror because you want to make sure that there's nothing of surprise that's coming up, behind you. But what's important to remember is that's behind you. We
Mhm.
need to focus on going forward. So again, there's value in being able to look backwards and have insight and pull that insight, forward to where we're at in the present. But by the time frame focusing on in the future in shorter amounts, then that helps us avoid this long-term and ongoing cycle that sometimes therapy can find itself in.
Love it. How do you feel? Next one?
Feels they did a good job on that one.
Killing it, ChatGPT, killing it. Or role of the practitioner. Now, I've never been called a practitioner, so I feel a little weird about this one, but okay. All right. Um, Therapists are trained mental health professionals who diagnose and treat mental, emotional, behavioral disorders. They use therapeutic techniques and interventions to help clients improve their overall well-being. Coaches are trained to facilitate personal and professional growth. They use a variety of coaching techniques, tools, and strategies to help clients clarify their goals, develop action plans, overcome obstacles, and achieve success. Jason, what do you think?
Hey, I again really like this one. I do like the term practitioner because for coaches, I think it goes back to your earlier point. It's like the gym trainer. Your drill set becomes your skill set. So
Hmm.
in the coaching world, what we're trying to do is use those techniques to help a person achieve their goals. And we're not the center of attention. We're not the sage on the stage. We're the guide on the side of this person trying to achieve their goals. And so we're helping design those drills that the clients can identify with and really have an investment with to move them forward. Therapists again they're mental health professionals, and they've went to school for it. They've paid the dues for how many hours of practice that they've had to do with that. Now again, coaches do as well, and I think we're going to talk about that here coming up. But yes, the therapeutic techniques and interventions to help overcome clients, that does take that additional time and therapists need to have that deeper level of mental health professional education.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, coaches do have training, we do have certifications, we do have multiple certifications in some instances, and we can continue learning, we can continue going to different courses. And that's important to know because I think coaches sometimes get a bad name because a lot of social media influencers with any sort of following will start calling themselves a coach. Really, anybody with any sort of success in life may call themselves a coach and open up a coaching practice that have no training at all, no certifications at all. And listen, that's fine. Like you have value, you've done something, you've been successful. But I think it's important to understand coaching is an actual practice. There is an actual technique to coaching. It is not coaching little league. That is not what we do. It is different. That's what we're trying to show you here. If there wasn't an actual technique, ChatGPT wouldn't be able to do this. There wouldn't be a quick response to this. There is a real technique. There is a methodology to coaching. I hate to say it, but I almost wish coaching had a different name because we're so ingratiated in that name coaching from our childhood and talking about when we were in little league or when we were in band or when we were in whatever and we worked with these coaches, so we all think, oh, I could coach. Really what was being done to us then was we were being taught, we were being mentored, we were being a million other words. Coaching, as you notice as we go through this, is a methodology. There is a training that needs to take place in order to learn how to properly coach someone. If you're talking the way we're talking in a coaching session to your client, you are not coaching. You're teaching, you're mentoring, you're consulting, you're doing a million and one other things, and they're probably all very useful. So I don't want to discredit it, but you're not coaching. So all these influencers that go out there and say they're coaching and everything, again, I'm not telling you they're not providing serious value, but they're not necessarily coaching. Some of them are. Some of them went out and they learned how to coach and they got certifications and they got all that stuff. Seek the certification badge. Seek things like ICF or some sort of accredited school or anything really. If they just say they're a coach, talk to them. They may be a mentor, and that may be what you want. You may want somebody to tell you what to do. You may want a consultant, especially if you want, if it's like a social media influencer or a big business person that sold their company and you want to seek their guidance on how to do the same thing. You may not want a coach. You may want somebody to tell you, hey, I need to know in 10 steps what you did. Show me. Totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I just want to explain that there is a difference. And I think that's important to know.
Yeah, the other difference I'd add on is coaches need to know the bounds of mental health and where not to cross the
Yeah.
bounds.
Excellent.
Again, I think great coaches will recognize what that bound is. They'll recognize it within themselves, they'll recognize it within the client, and they'll make the appropriate referral to mental health professionals to be able to help support that client. I think really piggybacking off your idea too of certification, certified coaches are trained to understand that, to recognize it, to know it, and how to manage it. My fear at times is that folks who just call themselves coaches, because again, they may have had wonderful life experience that they can share with others, they're not too sure what that boundary is, and at times may overstep it, which then can create harm for the client and their outcomes as well.
Yeah, Jason, that's a great point. That's an excellent point because you get this relationship with your client and you want to help them. So when they come to you with one of these problems, it's really difficult to be like, I can't talk to you about this. I can't help you with this because you have that relationship, you have that compassion and that empathy for them. But when you have the training and you have the know-how, by telling them you can't, by directing them to that therapy, you are helping them. If you don't have that training and that practice, honestly, and that, understanding that you could actually do more harm than good in some of these cases, you think you're hurting them by not saying, yeah, let's talk about that today, or I have some advice for you. So that's a great point. You could actually do a lot more harm than good when you actually think you're really helping them. So that's a
Yeah.
great point.
Mhm. But
All
again,
right.
nice job, ChatGPT.
ChatGPT for the win. All right. Not bad. It's a good batting average going to the Hall of Fame. All right, client state of being. This is very meta for ChatGPT. Therapy is often sought out when individuals are experiencing distress, mental health challenges, or a desire for deeper self exploration and healing. Coaching is typically sought out by individuals who are already functioning relatively well, but want to enhance their performance, achieve specific goals, gain clarity and focus, or make significant changes in their lives. I think this goes back to your original point, Jason, a little earlier about how, there's a time and a place for both. And sometimes people may seek therapy when coaching is really what they're looking for. And I think, yeah, you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I think I know one of the things that we talked about, the comparisons, but before doing our recording is I like the idea of therapy can almost be equated to if I'm driving a car and I wind up in the ditch, what I wind up doing is calling for a tow truck and I reflect on what happened that led me to the ditch. Therapy is
Mm.
looking at that in that way is, this is just what happened, the past, immediate present. How did I get here? To try to gain the insights. Now, as the tow truck comes and pulls me out, what I'm back on is my GPS on where was it I want to go? What's the best pathway that I can get there effectively, efficiently? How's my fuel level? So am I self-monitoring? And then, hey, I'm moving forward. So that's moving from the present then to the future. And so there's the time frame component we were just talking about in the last slide. And I also think this is about the state of being. Once you're on the road with your GPS going forward, everything that just happened in the ditch is in the past. It doesn't mean that I just leave it there. I learned the lesson so I don't go in the ditch again, but then I let that go or let it be in its place so it can inform me moving forward versus it's hard to drive forward if I'm constantly looking in the rearview mirror. And there's
Yeah.
that difference then between the therapy and the coaching. So, I do, the therapy often sought out when individuals are experiencing distress, mental health challenges. That is the main component when people do seek therapy. But, coaching provides that other part of moving forward. And again, I think just like we were talking about a moment ago, it's important for the coach to understand which time frame are we in and what's the client's state of being and point of view, and help them understand about, yes, there's insights to bring forward from the past to the future, but we can put down those bricks that are weighing us down, learn the lesson, and move forward. And that's where we can help the state of being for moving forward with the coaching client.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that analogy with the car. I also think this is where some people, you hear people often that have had like 10 therapists in like 6 years. And I tend to think that maybe what they're looking for is a coach, and they're seeking coaching through therapy, and they're not realizing that. And maybe they're not expressing themselves to their therapist properly because they're so used to being in therapy. So they go immediately, well, let's talk about when I was a kid. Let's talk about now. And they're recatching them up on their whole childhood and everything because they have to start over. They have to start from scratch. Where if they went to a coach would be like, don't need to hear it. We don't need to talk about it. What do you want to accomplish? And that would just be a whole reframing of everything they've ever discussed. But what do you mean? And maybe that would snap them into it. And now all of a sudden they're getting what they've been looking for these 10 therapists, maybe, because a lot of times it's probably, listen, I can understand one or two, but 10 therapists, like that's snake eyes quite a bit. That's the odds in the casino are not that bad. So
Yes.
chances are it's the methodology that's not working for you, not 10 people. Okay. So I think maybe it's time to maybe change the course of action and what you're going for. Try something new there. Not to say that maybe they were really that unlucky. And of course, I like to always say when I do something, there's a good chance it was user error. So maybe it is just the person, and they're just blaming their therapist because they may not want to do the work or whatever. That's true too. That could be it as well. But in some of these instances, I could almost guarantee it's the methodology that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for something else. But every time you go to a new therapist, you got to start from square one, and you got to get them all caught up. So you're starting over. So, but yeah, I think this is a really pretty good synopsis from ChatGPT again. So looking good.
Yeah, I agree. I think another part of this too is, I think about trauma informed therapy, where that was a great shift, and for mental health professionals to move from what's wrong with you to what happened to you, to help be able to examine with that person, again, different points of their life, different influences that took place. Where I think coaching wraps into that is, okay, so what's happened to you now moves to the question of, and now what?
Yeah.
And now what? And that's very, I think, empowering for some people, because I don't have to keep looking at my past. Yes, it happened, and I can acknowledge those things and learn lessons from those things, but I'm also needing to stay where my feet are, which is in the present. And now how do I
Yeah.
move forward from there? And I think coaches, again, trained coaches, certified coaches, have an advantage over non-trained, non-certified coaches on being able to help the client do that.
Yep. And you touched on, and now what you can learn from it, because I like to say, and how can you use it?
Yes.
Because that's the truth. There are no non-lessons. Everything can be used as a lesson one way or another. And if people like to bring up the past as a coach, it's our duty to then say, great, we could talk about the past as long as we're looking forward with the past, not just staying in the past. You want to talk about that dodgeball game you lost in the third grade? How are we gonna use it for the future? What did you learn? To always keep your eyes open? Great lesson. Let's always keep our eyes open. To never turn
Great
your
point.
back when somebody's got a ball thrown at you. Great. Let's not turn our back on, we're going to the ocean this weekend. Don't turn your back on the ocean. Things like that. So yeah, great lessons can be learned from even the pet, but we have to make sure we're using it for the future, not just staying there and fixing that time period. So yeah, it's
Yes.
we're doing good here. We're doing good. All right,
Cool.
should we go to the next one? I
You bet.
think this is the last one. Yep. Scope of issues addressed. Therapy can address a wide range of issues, including anxiety, depression, trauma, relationship problems, addiction, and other mental health concerns. Coaching primarily focuses on areas such as career development, leadership skills, personal growth, productivity, communication skills, and life transitions. So, this I think is probably, and I think when we were talking about this beforehand, the grayest of them. I think this is where if I asked for 4 and not 5, we got a home run. Here, I think it gets a little gray. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There's aspects I do agree with what ChatGPT came up here with. I mean, I don't know many people that go to the doctor's office and say, "Hey, doc, I feel great. I just want to feel better." Not many
Yeah.
people will ever do that. And you know what? I think that's the same thing with mental health professionals and therapists as well. Is no one's really showing up and saying things are going really great in my life. I want to do better. That's the role of the coach. To help be an amplifier. That things are going well, and to be an amplifier in certain areas, like some of the examples that ChatGPT gave there. And there's more right there. And what we just talked about a moment ago with therapy, and we see trauma that's listed in that definition that ChatGPT gave. Again, we're not saying things don't happen to people. We're not saying that bad things happen to good people. We're saying that yes, there is past, and there's lessons we can learn from the past. The most empowering part is how do we pull the lessons forward? How do we use them in the future in a way that helps us rather than hinders us? And then in coaching, in that second part of the definition, how can we use it in career? How can we use it in our personal relationships? How can we use it in leadership? So we don't have to wait for things to go wrong to go to the doctor's office or to go to the therapist's office.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And then on the top side of this, when they're talking about the therapy stuff, depression, trauma, obviously therapy. Some of these are very obvious, but relationship problems jumped out at me specifically because relationship coaching is obviously a niche of mine. But relationship problems, and then you go down and there's workplace development and things like that, hand in hand, hand in hand. You all of a sudden have a new manager that you have an issue with. That's a relationship problem. You get transferred to a new department and your coworkers aren't jiving. Well, that's a relationship problem. And this is all in the workplace. Forget about the outside stuff that to deal with. So relationship problems, again, if we're talking about past traumas with parents or siblings or spousal issues, you were cheated on when you were in college and you still carry that trauma with you to today. Yeah, I get all that, no doubt. That's what I mean when I say this is just a little too gray, because if you're having relationship problems in the workplace because you don't like to take authority, yeah, you can go to therapy to figure out why you don't have you don't like taking authority, or you can go to a coach and say, all right, let's do some conflict resolution and let's maybe role play this and let's figure out how you can work better within the organization. So the relationship thing was where I started to kind of say, all right, now we're getting a little gray here. Addiction, mental health concerns, easy. Trauma.
Mhm.
We're not that is not coaching. Nobody's coaching their way out of, addiction and mental health concerns. Those are much, much, much deeper. Um, so, but the leadership skills, the personal growth, all that stuff makes a ton of sense. So I think we're okay. It just didn't get gray. It got very broad. It got very. I answered 4 of the questions. I'm done answering questions today. I'm tired. I'm just gonna get a little bit more bigger. Life transitions. Yeah, life transitions makes a lot of sense. But I would have liked a little bit more specificity on that one.
Mhm.
But career coaching is a big one, right? That's a huge part of what we do as coaches. If people want to change their career, or if they just want a promotion, that's a life transition for sure. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunity here, but I think the scope of issues addressed. I think the main thing to take away here is how are you addressing them? We talked about the black and white ones: addiction, depression, but no brainers. But when it comes to an issue, how do you want to address it? That is how we put them in the buckets. Is this a therapy solution or is this a coaching solution? I really need to unpack this trauma with my parents. This was clearly something that messed me up as a kid or as a teenager, whatever. I need to figure it out. Or I gotta get this new job, or I really want to be a better husband, and I'm gonna focus on this. Okay, maybe we don't need therapy for that then. How can you be a better husband? Well, you know what? I could do XYZ. I can, be more present with my kids. I can, take my wife out on, one date a month instead of, only for our anniversary. You just gave yourself action items. Now, how are you gonna hold yourself accountable to those action? That's coaching. That's not therapy. That's coaching, which has happened there. Um, so, but you could also say, I saw my parents growing up. They had a terrible marriage. They were so distant. And I really need to understand why I have such a problem being intimate and loving towards my wife. That's therapy. Same problem. Two different ways to solve it. Right.
Mhm.
So that's what I mean when I say it's just a matter of how you want to solve it. And I think that's the main crux of really our conversation here today.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree, and I think that again, therapy and coaching are very complementary for each other. There are some folks who need to do both or should do both simultaneously. That would actually help them accelerate, in growth and toward what their goals and outcomes are. I think the other thing on scope of issues that that can hinder some people's understanding of coaching is when somebody, is a certified coach in X. For example,
Mm.
we're both executive coaches. That's been part of our training that we went through. But if people only believe, then that means we only work with business leaders. They're missing the larger components that parallel processes, will reveal. So leadership skills is very, very similar to a sports coaching skill, to being a parent, to being a good spouse, to being a good partner in relationships with others. But I think at times, when somebody sees, well, I'm a life coach, they forget that there's benefit maybe they could carry over into other aspects and spheres of their life, the same as a business coach, an executive coach. Now, there's some coaches who really go deep into those areas, and that's fantastic. But I think that it's important. What you brought up is this scope of issues addressed by ChatGPT is very umbrella, very global in nature, and there's more that can be dug into in the coaching area in particular.
I love it. I love it. All right. So ChatGPT, 4 out of 5 stars, 4.5 out of 5 stars. How about that? We'll give him a
I
half. We'll
agree
give
with
him
that.
half a star. We'll give him half a star for this one. All right. And that is final. So not bad. Not bad. We give him some credit on that one. Or her. I don't know. Non-binary ChatGPT.
That's right. That's right.
I don't think we ever determine where ChatGPT lies in the ones and zeros.
Yes.
But pretty well done, I think. I think overall that was pretty good. But I do like that we kind of clarified certain things. And I do think the coming at the end of this and really saying like, look, it's a matter of how you want to attack your problems and how you want to achieve your goals. So I really shouldn't even call them problems. How you want to achieve your goals, because as coaches, they're goals. Maybe in therapy, they're problems. And maybe that is a nice way to put a bow on this. With therapy, you have a problem, and now we're going to get to the root of it and we're going to solve it, or we're going to just make it manageable and eventually get past it and move on. Coaching, you have a goal and we're going to try to achieve it. Now the goal may be overcoming a problem, but it's more of a goal than a problem type of a thing. So I think, yeah, I think overall what you said was beautiful about some people could use both and they
Mhm.
go hand in hand really nicely and they complement each other really well.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's just what you said earlier is does the person who's helping the client understand which hat to wear and what's the bounds of those hats? Again, for a coach's role is not to go into the therapy role. It's not.
Yeah.
Therapists may go into the coaching role, but they should have training in being able to
Yeah.
do that too. That way, again, they can best help their client.
Yeah. Yeah. Meeting people that are therapists in our, some of our certification programs that wanted to get that coaching hat. I had so much respect for them.
Yeah.
because they knew that there was something different that this had to offer. And it gave so much validation to the methodology of coaching because they understood that there is something else here. It's not just about therapy. It's not just about talking to somebody, because again, there's not a whole lot of talking that goes on our end. We're asking questions. The answers lie within you. You have the answers. We're going to just help you pull them out and fill them in. You're going to hear very little advice from us. Now you may bang on that door for a while, and eventually you may get a sliver or something. But for the most part, we want you to come with the solutions, and we're going to help pull them out of you, and we're going to help you hold yourself accountable to these solutions. But that's our goal here, to get you to your goal, not to give you the goal, not to pull you across the finish line. You're going to get yourself across the finish line here.
And what an empowering finish, because
Yeah.
to know then for the client, I did this. You know,
Yeah.
not James, not Jason did this. They were with me on my journey, but I did this, because then that's not only this goal success, but it's ongoing success for this person. And you know, and what a gift. What a gift that as coaches that we can do with our clients, not to them, with them. That's powerful.
You don't mean to bookend this way, but nobody goes, my personal trainer got me to lift those weights for me. They just helped me get me to lift those weights.
That's right.
And that's really what it turned out. You did it yourself. They just helped you train so you could eventually get that weight up. And that's what we do in the, you know, headspace, but sometimes physical, sometimes we'll help you. If you got to tell me what to do, though, again,
Yep.
it's your action items, but
Yep.
we'll help you hold yourself accountable, and we'll
Yep.
get you there. And it's, I'll tell you, it's just as gratifying for us when you do,
It
because
is.
that's why we do this.
It is. It is very much.
That's why we do this. All right. On that note, anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so. Again, ChatGPT, nice job. 4.5 stars, I think, is a very good score. You know, right
All
there.
right.
And I enjoyed the conversation. Hope our listeners really gained some insight on it as well.
Yeah. The next ones will be shorter, I'm sure,
They will be.
but this one was a nice one to really recap everything and encapsulate what it is, and it really make people understand and help people understand where we're at. So appreciate you sticking with us. Thank you for everything. Email us if you have any questions, but if not, see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.